Hey everyone, I am Kelly Wulff. I'm the General Counsel of Vouch, and I am very excited to introduce Niji Sabharwal. He is the CEO and co-founder of AgentSync. Niji, what is AgentSync?
Yeah, first off, thanks. Thanks for having me. Really cool to see how you guys have grown over the last like 6 years now. We started both companies at about the same time in San Francisco too. We moved out to Denver about 4 years ago. AgentSync is roughly 200 people, and what we do is basically connect distributors with products to sell. Very narrow focus, and really what that means is regulatory compliance software for insurance companies. So we basically help producers get onboarded, contracted, background checks, all this. There's like 42 steps in the process to get a producer ready to sell in every state. And we built technology to kind of automate that flow and give our customers just a ton of time back and remove that very painful friction out of the process. So today it takes roughly 45 days on average for a carrier to get an agent just activated and ready to sell. We help folks actually do it self-serve, real time, or within a few days usually.
It's really impressive. When we were actually getting our own licenses back in 2018 and 2019, we had been previously working with like a third-party law firm to help us. And I was like, I'm just going to try to do this on AgentSync. And so this was for the agency. This wasn't for an individual. And I went on and I just kind of like clicked a couple of buttons, and then I got an email that we had our license in New York. And when I told the law firm this, they were just like, that's not possible. How did that go so fast? I was like, I don't know, but I have this number. Does it look like a valid number? They're like, yeah, it's a valid number. So it really does take something that, we were expecting to spend, months waiting for this, and it came back in minutes, and it was like truly, truly amazing.
Love that story.
Yeah. Happy to tell it over and over again for you. What is special about AgentSync?
Going back to the founding story, so Kelly and I met at Zenefit, so I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with the company and the story and probably the headlines more than anything else. So we were in trenches together, just getting like punched in the face by regulators over and over and over.
Repeatedly.
Yeah, really, really brutal. And I was doing sales operations at the time, and then we ran into a bunch of regulatory issues and joined Kelly, our general counsel, our compliance teams, our GR team to help kind of drive this remediation plan. And we ended up building internal software at Zenefit. So we hired some external engineers to build integrations, all the state departments of insurance, or NIPR. NIPR is the National Insurance Producer Registry. It's basically the source of truth for licensing and regulatory filings. And we built an integration directly to Salesforce so that when a producer was selling a piece of business, submitting, or really quoting and binding and getting paid a commission, we just automatically check with the regulator through an API if they had the right license. It's like a very simple integration that we built, and we were able to cure all of our compliance issues overnight. And so kind of more of a PR stunt. We ended up packaging it and launching as a free app on the Salesforce App Exchange. And we had that stage at Dreamforce to roll it out, and it was pretty fun. But it actually helped accelerate all of the violations that we had across every state. It helped accelerate the closure, or really the conclusion of those violations. So just going through it firsthand in a very painful way, I think it was the little bit of a secret sauce. To be frank, I knew like this much about insurance when we started this. And we're a software company exclusively works with insurance companies. So knowing enough about the actual real world implications and the pain that goes into getting the stuff wrong, that plus I started the company with my wife. She's the co-founder and CTO. And she is really hoping she could be here today, but she's in DC for a work thing. But I think having her as like the technologist and me, the person that's getting punched in the face over and over again, that combination makes it's kind of secret sauce.
So today you're solving a problem related, pretty specifically to insurance. What's the big vision for AgentSync?
Yeah, so we're actually finally ready to start executing on the longer term vision. Right now we we have roughly 250 customers. We work with agencies, carriers, MGAs, MGUs, BPOs, IMOs, FMOs, aggregators, like all the acronyms. And we basically deploy our software one-off for each customer. And so we've been moving up market quite a bit. So we're doing a lot of like tier 1, tier 2 carriers, and those implementations take years. And so what we're finding is that there's these really interesting patterns that have been emerging around the network. This is an invisible network that connects distribution in the U.S. And it's roughly it's like almost 4,000 carriers. There's roughly 110,000 active agencies that are doing like third-party sales, and then there's 1,000 or maybe like 1,500 wholesalers and the like in between. And then there's about like 1.2 million agents on the other side. So it's a very fragmented network. But the way insurance is sold for all time, and the vast majority of premium written in the U.S. today is through human producers still. And so we see the really interesting overlap across all of our customers. So these producers that are just getting onboarded at 40 different customers. We found one, it was a Goosehead, so obviously a big one. Acrisure is another big one, and they appeared in 42 of our customer environments. And so while we deployed the software, it's basically a slightly different flavor of the same process for producers to go through our user experiences. It's basically the same thing over and over again, but we deploy it custom one-off every time. And what we're executing this year on is building the first universal ID for every single agent and agency in the country. So it's an Octa-backed profile. Really the dream is to have that single kind of dashboard that a producer opens every morning to log into all their AMS, all their different apps, log into Ivan's, their continuing education app, and then all the quoting portals that they have for their carriers. And then ultimately it's going to be basically taking the friction out of the whole process and making a one-click appointment request and approval a real thing. So it's been an interesting journey because we're not focused on a single line of business. We're across every line of business and every distribution model. So we get to observe these really interesting trends, and our vantage point gives us the ability to actually, hopefully, I'm confident we're going to be able to do it, but it's going to be it's kind of like a big audacious goal we're going after, but really excited about it.
So could you explain a little bit what NIPR is, the National Insurance Producer Registry? I think most of the folks in this room might have heard that acronym, but they might not know exactly what it is, and it's an important partner of yours.
Yeah, actually met the CEO of NIPR at one of these regulator conferences, and she was one of the people punching me in the face, and just such a sweet woman. And we actually like not the first interaction we had, but over time she I grew on her. Let's just put it that way. And we stayed in touch since. But NIPR is the National Insurance Producer Registry. They're basically the source of truth for licensing and regulatory filings, but they basically created this layer on top of all the state departments of insurance that connect them all together through more or less uniform standards. Since insurance is regulated state to state, every state can kind of do whatever they want. NIPR gives them guidelines. They never actually observe the guidelines. So NIPR does the hard work of figuring out how to map what the state wants to a unified system, and then they're basically a clearinghouse for that data, and then we integrate with them to pull in licenses, carrier appointments, biographic information, any regulatory actions taken against a producer, and surface that information real time for our customers. And so they're an absolutely critical partner. We probably wouldn't be able to exist if it weren't for them. When we started the company, we kind of saw ourselves as a compliance as a service company, and it worked really well in the investor pitches, but going from insurance to let's say like medical professionals is a leap that's just way too far for us to make realistically. It would just we'd have to build basically a second company. And so we chose the insurance vertical specifically because there's an actual technology. It is a very outdated API. It's like a SOAP API. There's no documentation whatsoever. Very buggy, but that actually creates a nice moat for us because we have a whole team that's on the hook for basically getting from mistakes that are coming from the regulators and actually fixing them and reporting them to NIPR and then fixing them within our customer environments. So that partnership has been absolutely critical, but there's a lot of risk associated to tying yourself to one partner like that.
Yeah, so I think it's no surprise to any of us, like founders who are building in regulated industries, they often have to go to market with incumbents or legacy partners. You did with NIPR, also Salesforce, and that puts some pretty like existential partner dependency risk in your business model. How do you manage that?
Yeah, it's really tough. It's like a daily battle almost. So I'd say the biggest thing for us that's worked is just building relationships, building the right relationships, kind of every level within the partner organization, and just making sure we do FaceTime. FaceTime with them is absolutely critical. So we meet with the counterparts on the Salesforce side and NIPR on like at least a quarterly basis, and then bring them out to our office, we'll like wine and dine them, and because we're so reliant on that partnership, it has to work really well. But it's a big scary thing. I think it was one of the items that was difficult for our investors to kind of swallow when we were pitching the seed mostly, because having a dependency on those two partners is, it's never, if they, decide to change their model or, change directions or shut it down, put us in a tough spot. But we did enough diligence. The Salesforce is not going away anytime soon. NIPR is actually not going away anytime soon, but the relationships are really what keeps everything going.
I saw that NIPR recently announced that Washington State is now available to serve through their tool. That's all 50 states plus Puerto Rico or DC for you. So that's 100% of the US. So what is like the TAM of the opportunity for you? How many producers? I think you said 1 million-ish.
Yeah, it's like 1.2 third-party producers.
And how many do you currently serve today?
Today we've touched, so we actually we don't sell directly to the agents. We're selling to the agencies and then wholesalers and carriers. And we've touched about half of the total U.S. Population of agents. I've interacted with one of our customers at any given point. That was actually the really exciting thing about this universal ID that we're rolling out this year, is that, well, exciting and also like, coulda, woulda, shoulda, obviously, but looking back, if we had done this, at the beginning, we would basically have the majority of agents on this new platform, and it basically creates, we could create our own gravity around it. But those two are really big because NIPR has been working on this for literally decades. They were formed to basically bring a layer of uniformity to these really horrible and painful paper processes to get licensed in your resident state, non-resident state, processing on the affiliations. NIPR is trying to get in that, but I think it's going to be difficult. And then all the carrier appointments as well. And so, those two states coming through was just such a massive win for NIPR and really for the industry. But they roll things out in like individual products. So for that one, we're still able to do entity licensing and agent licensing, and so across pretty much every state. But there's still a couple features missing, or there were a couple features missing for that NIPR provided functionality for in New York and Washington. But that's now complete, which is huge.
So let's just call it 600,000 potential records. And those are everything from, we have criminal background check information, socials, obviously. That sounds like super sensitive data, and there's lots of fun privacy regulations, including in California. So how does your team ensure that those records are handled, one, within the regulations, but also two, within the customer's kind of expected standard of care?
Yeah, great one. We spend an inordinate amount of money on security. It's a short answer. Having especially for what we do, it's we can't screw that up. If we're a compliance company that gets breached, we're done. So we put just extreme amount of measures to make sure that, one, we can't pull data, only the person who needs the data can pull it out, and a ton of controls in place. But luckily we have Vouch to cover us in case anything happens. But
I was going to say, I bet that makes our underwriters happy to hear as well. So are you experimenting with any LLMs? I mean, when I hear data sets that large, it sounds like that's a big opportunity for you.
It is. I would really love to, but our customers are still they're pretty scared of AI. They're scared of anything that's a black box. It's very difficult for them to consume the information, understand it in a way that we can actually pitch a security and IT team on the fact that we're going to build it. We've basically gone down this path kind of halfway, and you could obviously build your own model and have it not be available for OpenAI to kind of do whatever they want with it. But it's really hard to explain to insurance customers, or the insurance companies are the most risk-averse buyers on the planet, hands down. And it's kind of in their job description. So I'm talking about old school, 100-year-old insurance companies mostly, and they're still kind of scared of it. I think we could probably get some traction within the InsurTech, our InsurTech customer base, pretty easily. But we're working on ways to frame it and potentially just not having to use the word AI or just keeping AI out of it altogether, just calling it software that's just really smart. But our GC is not super pumped about us trying to hide that. So on the product side, it's probably going to be a little while, but one thing we're doing, which has been really cool, is we built a GPT layer on top of we have a compliance library. So basically take the business rules that drive our product and then put them in, a human digestible format. And it's basically 50 states, all the crazy nuance that's state to state, and line of business is line of business. And we put a GPT layer on top of it, so you can actually ask it questions, and it will actually, you can ask it something crazy like what's the non-resident licensing fee for Nebraska if your resident license is in California, and they have these weird retaliatory fee things where the matrix of what you have to do to figure that number out is just bonkers. And so we're able to actually spit back that answer really easily and actually cite the page on our library that has it. So that's where we're going to start because it's safer. It's not using customer data.
When you do start experimenting with AI, you can come talk to us about adding an AI endorsement to your E&O policy. We'd be happy to help you with that. You're in a room of people who are responsible for also building stuff that is at the intersection of insurance and technology. And I know you mentioned this a bit. You didn't necessarily come to the prospect of building AgentSync with a deep background in insurance or regulations, and you were trying to build a compliance solution in a highly regulated space. How did you and Jen go about getting that expertise?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Especially being a technologist trying to build in a space that is just been around forever and incredibly highly regulated. I've seen this mistake made over and over again, so we were eyes wide open about it. We're not building products for ourselves, right? That was the main thing that we really had to understand was we figured out a way to automate the entire process, soup to nuts, and we were so excited about rolling this out, and we put it in front of the first customer, and they're like, there's no way I'm letting this black box do this, all the steps in the process. And so we had this solution where we literally automated all the checks in the background and filled out all the kind of information. Last stage was basically just to sign and submit. And for us, that's exactly the experience we wanted. And for our customers who have been career licensing admins who've been doing this 30 years, there's no way they would buy into that right away. I think ultimately they'll get there, but we have to meet our customers where they are and build the product and our service around the customer and understand the customer usually is not going to think is not going to think in the same way that you do, especially on the product engineering side. So that was a really important thing to remember from day one. But the other, I mean, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for this woman named Sandy Allen. She's a career admin, licensing admin. She's been doing it 30 years. She was our first employee. We bootstrapped for the first year and a half. We were basically paying her out of our checking account, running the business basically out of our checking account, and she was the main breadwinner for our family. And so she was so excited about what we were building. And I remember having this talk with her. And she's like, Niji, I'm going to do this, but like, you better not screw me over. I'm like taking a huge risk here. And so, she was brave enough to make it was a bad decision on her part, to be honest, like at that stage, because we were just so young, so new, and knowing that we were literally like making her payroll out of her checking account, and the fact that she asked if we do health insurance, and we're like, oh yeah, we should probably get that. And she asked for a computer, we're like, oh yeah, we should probably get you a computer. So super early days, but it's basically our entire product is her brain built into our software. Do you hire subject matter experts who've been doing this a really long time, or do you hire technologists who have the experience to actually build products? And you have to have both, right? And you have to get them to talk to each other in the same language in the same way.
So you've previously said that you believe talent is the most important part of a company's success. How did you develop a talent strategy that made sense for AgentSync? So
we were in San Francisco at the time, starting the company. She was working full-time at Stripe during the day. She was running their business technology team, huge job, working 12-hour days and then working at AgentSync nights and weekends. And so we both came from worlds of just like breakneck pace, like pace that would, in your 20s, maybe you can like do it. But as you get older, especially like kids is the biggest one, where you can't do 12-hour days every day, especially the two of us. We're both in it full time. Like Jen, we have a 3.5-year-old, and when Jen was pregnant, when it was like the day the baby came, she was literally pushing code. Like I had to drag her out of her chair, and bring her to the hospital. It's pretty crazy. But the intensity that we've gone through, and the amount of just understanding that life is, like real life is so much more important than really anything else, and making sure that we figured out a way to kind of prioritize that balance between, like working your ass off, but also really having time to spend with family and to like do life stuff. And at that point in time, I felt like I was like half a human being, because I was just kind of obsessed with just working hard all the time. And we knew we had to kind of make that shift. So a big part of that shift was, moving to Denver for one. There's a much different work-life balance here than in San Francisco. We moved in April of 2020, which was, I highly recommend, moving like first month of a pandemic while you're pregnant. And we were bootstrapped at the time, so we were trying to raise money during that same week that we moved. And luckily we did. We got a term sheet like that next week, but very, very scary time. So going back to the talent question. So we wanted to build a culture around, folks that were that thought like us, was a similar kind of stage of life, and that we didn't really have a community too. In Denver, when we moved out here, we didn't actually. We were out here for a weekend, and we're like, oh yeah, okay, this is our city, and we put an offer on our house that weekend. It was like kind of crazy. The only time I've been here before was a regulator conference, ANSC conference.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we were here together, right?
Probably.
Yeah. And so we really wanted to build a culture around having that work-life balance, and a city that that would accommodate for that. And most of our leadership team as young kids, and we're wanting to create a place where people are really like open about talking. People going through like really hard shit in their lives, and having being able to show up to work without having to hide that is it's just a huge privilege. So that was really important to us as we were kind of building the first like 50, 100, 200 employees. And then I'd say our strategy was really around like hiring people who were just like really curious. I'd say that's like the number one trait we look for, is just like raw curiosity. you can find somebody that's been, like amazing at what they do, been doing this 20 years, but if they don't have curiosity, you can't teach that, right? You could teach people other stuff. You can't teach people curiosity. So we really built our hiring strategy around finding those folks that were really curious, and then matching them obviously with folks that were very experienced, who just really understood what was happening, kind of boots on the ground. And then it sounds cliche, but diversity is incredibly important to us. So the way we think about diversity is having somebody interview at the company, when they come in the office and they can look around and feel like they can identify with those teams. That is absolutely critical. And having diversity as far as backgrounds, where people grew up, socioeconomic conditions, race, gender, everything. Having a diverse group around the table when we're making business decisions or just product decisions, you have different perspectives, right? I was on teams. I worked at LinkedIn before Zenefits, and my entire team was all a bunch of ex-McKinsey, ex-Bain management consultants. Sorry if any of you guys are of that background, but they all there's a very structured way of thinking about things, and you get the same answer. You put a question in the room, you get the same answer like 100% of the time. So having people who have those different perspectives really creates that type of creative conflict that just makes companies better.
When you're going out into the talent market, you're obviously looking for folks that have some sort of innate curiosity. They want to learn, they want to challenge. How do you talk about AgentSync in the talent market? I mean, I think what you do is very sexy, but I don't know if all the technologists or the folks that are that you're looking to help come in and build your not AI LLMs are thinking about it in the same way. So what's the story? How do you position yourself?
I thought about this a lot. Trying to hire people, especially in San Francisco, trying to hire people to build regulatory software for insurance companies is, it's definitely not the sexiest thing, for sure. But, when it comes down to it, it's like people don't join companies to do sexy things. At least the type of people that do, you probably don't want those people. So I was actually having this conversation with Zach, who's the CEO of Plaid. They became an investor. I think it was an angel investor in seed round. And I was talking to him about this point, like, hey, I'm really worried about recruiting for the best kind of software engineering product talent with a product that's just like the unsexiest corner of an unsexy industry, right? And I was like, oh yeah, we don't have we don't have the same kind of sex appeal as Plaid, right? And he was like, wait a second. Connecting back end, deep, very complex back end bank connections is on the same level as what we do, sexiness wise, right? And so, the problems we're solving and the way we're solving them and the industry we're going after, it's a very worthy problem to solve. Every single person is touched by insurance in some way, in some way or shape through their entire life. The average person, I don't know the actual number here, but the average person has dozens of insurance policies over the course of their life. So if we can help kind of get the best access to those products in brokers' hands, who are actually the ones selling to consumers, that's a very worthy problem to solve. And it just removes this insane amount of friction in an industry that, the way that we think about it is there's a few other technology companies that are focused on narrow parts of the value chain like we are. And we're tackling something very specific. There's quoting, there's underwriting, there's sales, marketing, compliance, reinsurance, and all the other aspects of an insurance company that you're basically reinventing the wheel over and over again every time you create an insurance company. And so we're tackling one of those pieces of the value chain, and enough technologists come along and then tackle other pieces. Somebody's going to be able to come along and stitch together all of those components, hopefully through APIs in a way that will bring actual disruption. I hate that word disruption, but just change the way that people think about insurance and how insurance is sold. And so that that is the thing that gets people really motivated. And the fact is that, this business is pretty lucrative for sure. And so, having good customer growth and good sales numbers is also like extremely motivating for people. But I'd say at the end of the day, we attract people who are interested in solving the kind of problems we're solving, which has been really cool to see. So I was like totally proven wrong, on that assumption.
Looking ahead, what are you most excited about?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this industry and really what's to come. I know there's been public market sentiment has been pretty terrible, but I am confident that will turn around. We just need one or two really good insurtech IPOs to turn it around. But it's never been a better time to be in the space. I mean, there's a changing of the guard that's happening that I'm sure you guys are seeing, where the the average age of an insurance broker is 62. So and that bell curve is very concentrated around 62. So for us at least, as those brokers retire and sell their books, it's going to shift very rapidly towards Gen X and millennials. And the insurance industry is actually kind of struggling to hire, find people to fill those roles. And as that starts happening, wages will go up around it, and we'll just see a much kind of younger and more technology-focused group of people who care about these problems and who are the consumers. For us on the broker side, let's say a Gen Z broker will never work with a carrier. It takes 45 days to get them appointed, and they have to fax a bunch of forms back and forth. And so I'm really excited about that trend that we've literally seen the last couple of years. A lot of forward progress. You find these really innovative people, at the helm of 100-year-old insurance companies on the product side, on the tech side. So I think the next 10 years are going to be just really interesting in this space.
Well, a big thank you to Niji for his time and his wisdom, and a big thank you to all of you for being such a great audience as we enjoyed this conversation. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.